could we dig in a little bit more on that opportunity that you mentioned with Florida International? Um, I mean, it doesn't sound like maybe you had any connections there. How were you able to maybe just like send a resume or get accepted to a job where you don't know anyone, or how were you able to set yourself apart for something like that?
So during that time, I was reaching out to like director of football operations, who, I mean, outside of the head coach, they kind of run the show. That's like the head coach's head guy or head woman. So they're kind of leading the way with that kind of stuff. So I was like, hey, like looking for an opportunity. Would love to be a part of the team and contribute to the team. A lot of schools were like, yeah, come to school first, then we'll figure it out. And I was like, nah, I'm going to school for this. Like I want
Yeah.
to make sure there's that opportunity available. So luckily, with that school, I went down to visit, and I participated in basically their training camp in the spring, their spring training kind of thing. I was on the field, got to participate and kind of have like a little audition and see the team and meet some people. And then as I was actually walking out, I got the head coach was like, "Oh, hey, come over. We're doing something big here." All the big talk, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Couldn't have been nicer. So I was like, "Hey, mom, I'm going here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going here." So it worked out well. And crazy enough, that head coach is currently the head coach at the University of Oregon.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See,
So
moving up.
yeah.
Um, so similarly, could you talk a little bit about how you got in with the Browns as well? You said you reached out to an alumni. Was that alumni, really willing to work with you since you went to West Virginia, or how did you build a relationship with them to where they were willing to, give you a tour of the Browns stadium?
So as I was kind of getting ready to graduate from West Virginia, we have an extensive sport management alumni directory.
Mhm.
So I kind of reached for stuff I wanted to get into, whether it be like facility services or football ops or game ops. I kind of reached out to, let's just say, 5 to 10 people. I spoke with, I think, two athletic directors, a few director of facility services, the director of stadium operations with the Cleveland Browns. And it wasn't like a, hey, do you have a job? It was more like a, hey, like, I see you're an alumni of West Virginia. I'm going to be an alumni shortly. How'd you get to where you are? Do you have any advice? Like, hey, I would love to have a conversation with you if possible.
Yeah.
I'd say most of those from that semi connection, like, hey, West Virginia, sure, was able to have those conversations, start a conversation, and kind of go through, get their advice. And then some were more useful than others. But Todd, who I still work with, he was gracious enough to be like, hey, he was actually at an event that I interned for too. I interned for the Stadium Managers Association. So I went to Palm Springs for that. I was able to meet him there. However, I didn't have a great conversation with him just because I was so focused on obviously my current responsibilities. I didn't want to get too far in front of myself. Then he's like, hey, I know we didn't get a chance to speak too much, but if you want to come to the stadium for a tour, that'd be great. So I decided to drive the few hours out of the way. I think I was headed home for spring break or something like that. It's like, hey, I'll do a little detour, take that opportunity to get to see the things. And he mentioned, hey, this is what we can do for you if you're interested.
For sure. That's awesome. That seems like just the way you might have planned it out in your head then, huh?
Yeah.
Um, I'm really interested in the fact that you said you reached out to a handful of different alumni. How do you do that with, maybe in the back of your mind, you're graduating soon, you're trying to get a job, but you obviously probably don't want to reach out and say, hey, will you hire me off the bat? Could you give a little bit more insight on that for like students now on maybe how to like craft a message like that?
I think it's important to try to connect with them, whether it just be like let's just say with you, hey Andrew, I'm very interested in to know how you got to be stadium operations at Ford Field. Like
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by all the events at Ford Field and would love to speak with you at some point. I think the worst thing you could do is be like, hey Andrew, do you have a job?
Yeah.
Like that's not, if I see your name pop up like on a resume for an opportunity, I'm not going to put you any higher just because you emailed me. I
Yeah.
think it's important to try to have a conversation with them, and if they're available to have a conversation, or write out a few questions, and then maybe like hey, if you're willing, if it's easier for you to have a conversation, I would absolutely love that opportunity kind of thing. Because that's the thing with me. One of your students, Jasmine, she reached out to me with some questions, and I'm the kind of person where I'd rather just kind of chat with you. It's a little easier than typing, and you can kind of communicate more information. I personally like that, and I feel like a lot of people would do that.
No, for sure. That's great. And I think that's very actionable advice for everyone on this call to, reach out to those people, build those relationships. Maybe um, you have 2 more years left of school, but it's good to get ahead of those things and build those relationships so you can use them maybe when you need them.